Beneath the emerald canopies and across scattered islands of the Pacific, the Philippines holds stories older than time itself. Here, mountains cradle hidden villages, rivers carve lifelines through dense jungles, and coastlines whisper of voyages guided only by the stars. Within this vast archipelago, tribes endure as guardians of memory, carrying the voices of ancestors in their rituals, songs, and traditions. They are living echoes of resilience, bound to land and sea in ways untouched by centuries of change. This journey leads us into their world, where history breathes through landscapes and culture survives in harmony with nature's raw beauty. High in the Cordillera Mountains, where clouds drift low across emerald ridges, the Ifugao carved their legacy into living stone and soil. The Banawe rice terraces rise in endless steps, climbing the mountainsides like stairways to the sky. Each terrace was cut by hand, shaped over centuries, with patience and strength, transforming sheer slopes into fertile fields. In these heights, the land itself became an ancestral monument, a vast green amphitheater sustained by the rhythm of rain and spring. Yet behind their beauty lies struggle. The mountains were steep, the earth resistant, and survival demanded more than labor. It required unity. Through rituals to the spirits and guidance from elders, the Ifugao endured. Their terraces are not just farms, but a covenant with the land, a delicate balance of water, stone, and living faith. Flooded paddies mirror the heavens, while every harvest binds the people deeper to the memory of those who first shaped the hills. Centuries passed, storms swept through, and empires rose and fell beyond these ridges. Yet the terraces remained. They became both shield and lifeline, feeding generations while declaring the Ifugao's resilience against time. Today, they stand as an eternal dialogue between humanity and nature, etched across the mountains like a sacred script. To gaze upon them is to witness more than agriculture. It is to see history alive, a civilization woven into earth and sky. The Ifugao remind the world that greatness is not only measured in stone temples or golden palaces, but also in the quiet endurance of people who turned mountains into gardens that will outlast centuries. Amid the rugged highlands of the Cordillera, where valleys cut deep and rivers coil like silver threads, the Kalinga carved their identity in strength and tradition. Their villages cling to mountain slopes, bound together by kinship and the spirit of resilience. For centuries, they stood as fierce guardians of their land, their warrior culture shaped by the need to defend home and honor. On their skin, tattoos became living chronicles, marks of valor, symbols of journeys, and emblems of beauty etched by fire and thorn. The highlands were unforgiving. Steep trails tested endurance, and isolation demanded unity. Conflict often arose between neighboring groups, where bravery was measured not only in battle, but also in the courage to protect the tribe. Each tattoo told the story of those moments, a permanent reminder that life here was both fragile and unyielding. For the Kalinga, survival meant more than enduring nature's trials. It meant carrying forward traditions that defined who they were. Over generations, the artistry of tattooing evolved into a sacred practice, guided by women who became keepers of this ancient script upon the body. The patterns mirrored rivers, rice fields, and spirits believed to guide the living. In every mark lay a dialogue with the ancestors, binding each generation to the legacy of those before them. Today, when sunlight spills across the Cordillera ridges, the Kalinga villages still breathe with this heritage. Their tattoos remain as timeless signatures of identity, resilience, and memory. To witness them is to glimpse a people who etch their history into skin and stone, a culture that endures in the mountains, where strength, beauty, and tradition flow together like the rivers that carve the valleys below. High upon the steep ridges of the Cordillera, where clouds cling to the peaks and rivers glimmer far below, the Igorot have lived for centuries as children of the mountains. Their world is a landscape carved by hand, where rice terraces rise in layered steps, echoing the shape of the earth itself. Each stone wall, each channel of water, carries the memory of ancestors who tamed the slopes, turning raw wilderness into living fields that sustain both body and spirit. The mountain life was never gentle. Steep paths separated villages, storms battered the harvest, and the soil demanded endless labor. To endure, the Igorot wove rituals into their survival, offering prayers to unseen guardians, honoring the cycles of planting and reaping, life and death. Ceremonies rose with the smoke of fires, echoing with chants and the beat of gongs, binding the people to their land and to one another. Every act of farming became a sacred covenant, a balance between human hands and the spirit of the mountain. Conflict, too, shaped their history. In these isolated heights, communities stood fiercely independent, defending their valleys against outsiders, while within, kinship and ritual ensured peace and order. Strength was not only in the warrior's hand, but also in the harmony of tradition, the unseen thread that kept the Igorot bound to their ancestral ground. Even now, the terraces shine like mirrors in the rain. The rituals linger in the air, and the mountains cradle their people as they have for generations. The Igorot stand as a testament to endurance, a culture that shaped its world as much as it was shaped by it. In their terraces and traditions lies a story of survival and reverence, etched forever into the heart of the Cordillera. In the shadow of volcanic slopes and deep within the forests of Luzon dwell the Aeta, among the earliest children of the Philippine archipelago. Long before kingdoms rose and ships crossed distant seas, the Aeta walked these lands, moving with the rhythm of rivers, trees, and fire. Their world was shaped by mountains that breathe smoke, by jungles thick with life, and by the ancient memory of survival etched into every path and clearing. Life on these slopes was marked by challenge. Eruptions scarred the earth. Ash-buried valleys and forests demanded both knowledge and resilience. Yet the Aeta endured by learning the secrets of the land. They became masters of the hunt, skilled in tracking through silence, drawing sustenance from roots, fruits, and game hidden within the wild. Fire was their companion, used to clear and renew the forest, a cycle as old as their own presence here. In every gesture, they carried an unbroken bond with the land that sheltered them. Isolation gave rise to independence. For centuries, the Aeta stood apart, living in small groups where kinship bound them together more strongly than walls or borders. Their ways were simple, yet profound, guided by the spirits of forest and mountain, by the pulse of nature itself. Every journey across the slopes, every ritual beneath the trees, was a reminder that survival was not conquest, but harmony. Today, the volcanic ridges still rise above their world, reminders of both destruction and renewal. The Aeta endure as witnesses to a past older than history, their presence written not in stone monuments, but in the living forest and the paths they continue to walk. To know them is to glimpse humanity's earliest chapters, carried on in the whispers of leaves, the smoke of volcanoes, and the enduring strength of a people who have never left the embrace of the land. Across the rugged heart of Mindoro Island, where mountains descend into quiet valleys and rivers wind through dense green forests, live the Mangyan, guardians of traditions carried across centuries. Their homes of bamboo rise lightly above the earth, blending with the land as if they had always belonged. In their hands, weaving becomes more than craft. It is story and memory, patterns drawn from nature's rhythm, each thread binding past and present. Even their words once flowed across bamboo strips, etched in an ancient script that preserved prayers, songs, and the wisdom of their ancestors. Life on Mindoro was both generous and demanding. The soil yielded crops only through patience. The forests offered sustenance, but asked respect. And the mountains isolated communities into small settlements where kinship was life itself. Survival meant listening to the seasons, moving in step with rain and sun, and trusting in knowledge passed down through elders. To the Mangyan, every act, whether planting, weaving, or writing, was part of a deeper harmony, a dialogue with the land that sheltered them. Yet hardship pressed upon them. Typhoons swept through with destructive force, rivers overflowed, and the isolation of the mountains often made life precarious. But the Mangyan endured, carrying resilience in silence, answering trial with tradition. Their bamboo houses swayed, but did not fall. Their fields bent, but grew again, and their script endured as one of the oldest written legacies of the islands, a quiet testimony carved into time. Today, when wind moves through the forests of Mindoro, it seems to whisper the Mangyan's story, a people who shaped their world with lightness and grace, leaving behind no monuments of stone, but a living heritage of weaving, writing, and resilience. In their homes, their patterns, and their words, the Mangyan remind us that strength lies not always in conquest, but in the enduring harmony between people and the land they call home. In the vast forests of Palawan Island, where limestone cliffs rise above emerald canopies and rivers vanish into hidden caves, dwell the Palawan, people whose lives remain bound to the spirit of the wild. For centuries they have moved through these forests with quiet reverence, hunters and gatherers who read the language of trees, streams, and stars. Every path beneath the towering dipterocarp trees carries memory. Every clearing whispers of ancestors who believed the forest was alive with unseen guardians. The Palawan world has never been one of ease. The jungle teems with both abundance and danger. To find food, they relied on skill and patience, tracking game in silence, gathering fruit and honey with an intimate knowledge of season and place. Their hunting culture was never conquest, but dialogue, an exchange where respect for the spirits of animals and trees ensured that life could continue. Deep animist beliefs guided this balance. Rituals offered in gratitude, words spoken to unseen presences before each journey into the woods. The forest demanded resilience, and storms often tore through the island, flooding valleys and scattering the game on which they depended. Yet in those trials, the Palawan discovered strength, holding to the knowledge passed down through generations. Each ritual fire, each offering of betel nut or song, was more than custom. It was a thread binding the living to the unseen, ensuring harmony between human and nature. Even now, as light filters through the high canopy and rivers carve silver lines through the jungle, the Palawan endure, as keepers of this ancient bond. Their lives remain woven into the pulse of the forest, where every hunt is sacred and every tree a silent witness. To know their story is to glimpse a world where belief and survival are inseparable, a living testament to humanity's oldest covenant with the land. Along the shores of Palawan, where the sea shimmers like glass and forests descend toward hidden coves, the Tagbanwa have lived for centuries in harmony with tide and soil. Their world is a meeting place of land and ocean, where rice grows in the valleys and the sea offers its endless bounty. Life here is shaped not only by harvest and fishing, but also by ancient rituals, where every grain of rice and every wave carries the presence of spirits who watch over their people. The balance was never simple. The sea could turn violent, storms striking with sudden fury, scattering boats and flooding coasts. The land, too, could falter when rains failed or floods drowned the fields. In these moments of uncertainty, the Tagbanwa turned to ceremony. Rituals were woven into every season, offerings cast into the water for the spirits of the deep, prayers lifted for the rice that sustained them, and dances performed to honor the unseen guardians of earth and sea. Their world was not divided between sacred and ordinary, for every act was touched by the divine. Generations carried these traditions forward, building lives where resilience was measured not only in survival, but in reverence. The rice harvest was celebrated as a gift, the sea journey begun with a prayer, and even death was marked by rituals guiding the soul toward the afterlife. Through these acts, the Tagbanwa sustained more than their bodies. They sustained their place in a universe alive with meaning. Today, as waves still break upon Palawan's shores and rice fields glisten beneath the sun, the Tagbanwa remain as quiet guardians of a heritage older than memory. Their rituals echo across sea and land, reminding the world that survival is not only about endurance, but about the deep, unbroken ties between humanity, the earth, and the eternal rhythms of the sea. High in the misty highlands of Lake Cebu, where water lilies drift across still waters and hills roll into endless green, the Taboli carry forward a heritage unlike any other. Their world is alive with dreams, visions that do not fade with morning light, but become cloth itself. From these dreams emerges the Tanalak, a fabric of deep patterns and flowing symmetry, woven by women who listen to spirits in their sleep and bring them to life through threads of abaca fiber. Each piece is not just textile, but story, an offering to ancestors, a memory made visible. Life in these highlands demanded harmony. The forests gave food, the lake gave fish, and the land offered crops, yet nothing was taken without respect. Rituals accompanied the planting of fields and the weaving of cloth, for every act was sacred, every song a bridge to unseen realms. Music rose from bamboo instruments, gongs and flutes, carrying the voices of spirits and echoing across the hills. For the Taboli, art was not ornament, but essence, a way of binding the living with the world beyond sight. Yet their world was never free from trial. Storms lashed the hills, floods threatened the lake, and survival required resilience. The answer was always in unity, in holding to tradition even when the land tested them. Through weaving and music, the Taboli found strength, for these were not mere crafts, but vessels of their identity. Dreams were their map, guiding the people through hardship, with patterns that told of balance, order, and life's unbroken circle. Today, as morning mist drifts across Lake Cebu, the Tanalak still gleams with the hues of earth and spirit, and music still stirs the air with timeless rhythm. The Taboli endure as dream weavers of Mindanao, a people whose visions shaped cloth and song into living history, reminding the world that beauty can rise from dreams and carry the soul across generations. Across the sprawling highlands of Mindanao, where rivers cut through jungles and mountains rise into cloud, the Manobo people have lived for countless generations. They are many in number and diverse in tongue, yet bound together by a heritage rooted in the land. Their villages rest near fertile valleys and forested ridges, where farming sustains daily life and rituals honor the unseen spirits who dwell in earth, river, and sky. To walk among them is to step into a world where myth and memory flow side by side, where every harvest and every hunt is sanctified by ancient belief. Survival here was not gentle. The mountains demanded toil, the forests tested skill, and storms swept through with unforgiving force. To endure, the Manobo turned to both strength and spirit. Crops of rice and root bound them to the soil, while rituals kept harmony with the guardians of nature. Animist ceremonies filled the air with chant and drum, calling upon unseen forces to bring balance, to ward away misfortune, and to bless the fields. In times of danger, warrior legends rose, stories of valor carried from generation to generation, shaping a culture where courage was both shield and honor. Conflict was never far from their history. With neighboring groups, boundaries of land and pride often clashed, and in those moments, the warrior spirit of the Manobo shone brightest. Yet their strength was never only in battle. It lived in their unity, in their rituals of peace, and in their resilience against a landscape both beautiful and harsh. Each story, each song, became a vessel of identity, binding people to their ancestors and to one another. Even now, when the rivers run swift and the mountains loom dark against the horizon, the Manobo endure as guardians of a legacy both fierce and sacred. Their lives remain guided by ritual, shaped by the soil they till, and illuminated by legends of warriors who walked before them. In their world, the land is not backdrop, but living partner, and their culture stands as a testament to the unbroken dialogue between people, spirit, and earth. In the rising hills of Davao, where mountains meet the sky and forests stretch in endless green, the Bagobo people have carried their culture like a flame through the centuries. Their world is one of color and artistry, a place where clothing becomes story and craft becomes identity. Robes of intricate weave, beads strung in radiant patterns, and brass ornaments shaped with skill reflect not only beauty, but history itself. Each garment is more than attire. It is a map of memory, telling of lineage, community, and the enduring bond between people and land. Yet life in the highlands demanded more than grace. The earth yielded its gifts only through labor, and storms often struck the mountains with sudden force. To endure, the Bagobo turned to craft and ritual, drawing strength from tradition. Farming tied them to the soil, while ceremonies honored spirits, believed to govern harvests, rivers, and forests. In every woven cloth and hammered brass, the unseen world was acknowledged, transforming ordinary objects into vessels of belief and guardianship. But trials extended beyond nature. Conflict sometimes tested their resolve, and survival meant defending both land and identity. In such times, strength was measured not only in arms, but in the endurance of culture itself. The Bagobo's ornate traditions became their shield, a way of preserving identity even as the world around them shifted. Their artistry was resilience, visible proof that their spirit could not be broken. Today, when sunlight falls across the mountains of Davao, Bagobo garments still shimmer with color, their patterns echoing generations of craftsmanship. The people remain as artisans and guardians of heritage, their culture woven into every thread, every ornament, every ritual. To see their craft is to glimpse a people who transformed survival into beauty, leaving behind not monuments of stone, but a living artistry that speaks of identity, pride, and unbroken tradition. On the emerald island of Basilan, where palm-fringed shores meet turquoise seas and villages rest beneath the shade of forested hills, the Yakan people have long woven their identity into vibrant threads. Their weaving is famed across the archipelago, cloth alive with colors that shimmer like the tropics themselves. Bold geometric patterns dyed with hues drawn from roots and leaves become more than fabric. They are heritage carried on the loom, living memory made visible in every line and motif. Life on Basilan was shaped by both sea and soil. The island gave coconuts, root crops, and rice, while the waters offered fish and passage to distant shores. Yet isolation brought challenge. Storms swept across the seas, fields demanded toil, and survival required unity in village life. Here, tradition guided the people. Families built houses of wood and bamboo, raised on stilts above the earth, clustered in communities where kinship bound neighbors together. The rhythm of life was measured not only by planting and harvest, but also by weaving and ritual, by the artistry that colored daily existence. But their history was not free from trial. Waves of conflict and shifting tides of power touched their island, and the Yakan endured by holding fast to tradition. Their weaving became not just craft, but shield, a mark of continuity in times of uncertainty. Each pattern was a declaration that their identity endured, a testament to resilience against change and hardship. Today, when sunlight pours across Basilan's hills and the sea glitters at its edge, Yakan cloth still glows with the brilliance of heritage. In village life and in every woven thread, their culture continues to breathe. To witness their art is to see not only beauty, but strength, the enduring story of a people who turned island life into a tapestry of color, unity, and tradition, passed down through the hands of generations. Across the restless waters of the Sulu archipelago, where islands rise like emerald jewels from the sea, the Tausug have long been known as the people of the current. Their world was never bound to a single shore, but carried by the tides, the wind, and the rhythm of the waves. Boats became their lifeblood, sails guiding them through channels and open seas, where trade, travel, and survival unfolded upon shifting waters. To live as Tausug was to live with the sea itself, both as provider and as test. The currents, however, were never gentle. Storms swept through with sudden violence, scattering fleets and battering coasts. Raiders and rivals once contested these waters, forcing the Tausug to defend their domain with courage and skill. Their warrior traditions grew from these struggles, stories of bravery and loyalty carried in memory, sung across generations. On land, their villages rose along coasts and coves, anchored by kinship and guided by rituals that honored both ancestors and the unseen forces believed to dwell in sea and sky. The sea was their harvest, the soil their anchor, and their culture a balance between both. Fishing sustained them, while trade routes carried their influence far beyond their islands. Ceremonies blessed voyages, celebrated harvests, and marked life's passages, binding community and faith together in resilience. To be Tausug was to move with the tide, to endure its trials, and to claim strength from its ceaseless motion. Today, as the waters of Sulu still surge and glisten beneath the sun, the Tausug remain bound to the sea. Their history flows in the current, their identity reflected in the horizon, where waves meet sky. To witness their world is to glimpse a people who carved a culture from the ocean itself, living proof that the sea can shape not only survival, but spirit, pride, and enduring legacy.